All right, why don't we get started here? Good evening. This is a workshop in Vermont Public Utility Commission Vermont Public Utility Commission case number 24-0443, which concerns an investigation pursuant to Act 142 of 2024 into the creation of a statewide program to reduce energy burden. My name is Ed McNamara. I'm chair of the Public Utility Commission. And with me today are Commissioners Margaret Cheney and Riley Allen. Also present are Commission staff members Jake Marin, Elizabeth Schilling, and Jacob Davis. So just going to give a little bit of background before we launch into this. PUC has been tasked with submitting a report to the legislature on ways to address Vermonters' energy burden. In other words, your heating, electric, and transportation costs. In particular, we've been asked for any recommendations on how to provide assistance for folks who have a high energy burden. Our report is due to the legislature on December 1st. So this workshop is being held in response to public comments we received, asking for additional opportunities for members of the public to share their input with the Commission, particularly Vermonters who are burdened by energy costs. So we're encouraging folks to share their thoughts about a couple different topics. This is not meant to be limiting, but to give some ideas. The best ways to provide assistance to consumers who need help with their energy bills, challenges with accessing assistance, positive or negative experiences with current assistance programs, or anything else related to energy burden. So we're recording this meeting. Also, this meeting is not the only forum for public input. Folks can provide written comments on this case using the Commission's online document management system, which is called ePUC, or by regular mail or email. Jake, can you share I believe you've got a slide.
I'm going to put it in the chat if that works for everyone. Otherwise, I can put it up on the screen in a minute. Yep.
Yeah, chat would be great. So Jake Marin's putting in the chat different ways to contact us. I know that not everyone likes talking in public, so we're providing lots of different opportunities to provide input here. When you do make comments, can you please identify yourself by name? This is going to be transcribed later. So, looking around, there's about 45 folks here. I'm trying to think the best way. I could either go alphabetically off of the participant list, if folks are comfortable using the raise hand function as well. It's definitely another way that we could do it. Or folks could go off mute and start talking if we don't get too much feedback.
Are you asking us to identify ourselves, Ed?
That would be great if you could provide your name. But I'm not asking for an attendance list. Oh. If you're interested in speaking tonight, I'm just asking folks to provide their names before they start speaking. And so when I'm asking, and sorry if I'm not being very clear, is there anybody interested in speaking tonight and providing comments? We've got quite a few people who've shown up, and I'm really hoping that we can hear some feedback here.
I'm not sure if I should raise my hand or just come off mute. This is Travis Poulin. I work for the Champlain Valley Office of Economic Opportunity, and yes, I would love the opportunity just for a couple of minutes to share some of what we see on a regular basis during the heating season, and completely say that I support the concept of an energy assistance program, especially one that might be thoughtfully designed and possible to access, or that would provide a level of service and assistance year-round.
Great, thanks. So Travis, what I'm going to do is a couple people had gotten ahead of you. So I am going to see if we could just go in the order of raised hands, and then we'll try after that. So I see some nods. Great. Ellen Amstutz, and my apologies, I'm terrible at names.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And that would have worked for alphabetical order too. So that's great. Thank you for holding this meeting. And I am representing the Vermont Parent-Child Center Network, which is a network of 15 Vermont Parent-Child Centers located throughout the state. And thank you for the opportunity to give us a couple of minutes to share experiences of families with children under the age of 6 who experience hardship in paying for utilities. We work with a generally lower income population, although our services are universal and open to all, but just by the nature of the kind of services that we receive, we tend to help a lot of families in need. So our centers are around the state. We offer a range of in-home and community-based services to families with children under age 6. We deliver 8 core services that build family resilience, responsive parenting, support child development, and protect against economic hardship and prevent mild child maltreatment. One of the critical things that we do is one of those 8 core services is concrete supports, and those are helping people with financial and material needs that they have to address immediate needs and mitigate hardship. And this comes in lots of forms of providing food, diapers, clothing, transportation, and helping with utilities is an increasingly big area of support. I reached out to our 15 directors throughout the state and asked them to share examples of the kinds of things that they're seeing in their centers. Our Brattleboro office in Windham County let me know that last year they helped 39 families with utility payments, most of them facing a shutoff notice. And they paid over $8,000 to these families to keep their utilities on. They all had children under the age of 5 in their homes, many of them infants and toddlers. They also work with their local community action program, make sure that the families do have the energy discount. They provide food and gas cards, and thereby enabling some income to be freed up to pay their utility bills. The Central Burlington Parent-Child Center also told me that they have way too many families to provide support with. Some people walk in with utility arrears of over $500. They can't really help everybody that comes in. They work well with their Burlington Electric to coach families on how to reduce their bills. They also make sure they also apply for the Energy Assistance Program, and we are able to, the Parent-Child Center is able to pay some of the bills so they can negotiate a payment plan. I heard from our 2 parent-child centers in the Northeast Kingdom. They're also part of a community action agency serving a very low-income community. These families get financial coaching and fuel assistance, and so the financial support we can give them in their utility bills makes a huge difference. Many of our parent-child centers report that children are living without utilities at all and in substandard housing. These conditions are detrimental to the health and well-being of very young children. Stress and adversity the parent is experiencing has a negative impact on cognitive development of babies and toddlers at a most critical time in brain development. When parents are stressed, when they need to worry about the lights being on, they can't really provide the nurturing, stable care that are critical to brain development. So from the parent-child centers, we feel that it's critical importance that utilities are affordable to families. Our poor families are disproportionately impacted by having utilities take up such a large portion of their family budget. We as the parent-child centers are not really able to keep up with the needs with the small amount of funding that we have for these concrete services. So we hope that you'll consider how families with young children are impacted by high utility costs. They are Vermont's next generation, and we need to ensure they're raised in safe, nurturing, and healthy environments, and parents have support and stability that they need to do that. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. I'm going to turn to Matthew LaFleur.
Yes, greetings, PUC Commission members. My name is Matthew LaFleur. I live in Auburn, Vermont, in Grand Isle County. I serve on the Vermont League for Cities and Towns and Vermont Climate Council, if you know, and UVM umbrella of insurance, medical, and education of state. So clearly, all and everything in between. I know. Out here, what I'm hearing, from a Vermont Climate Council point of view, most of your programs assistance are good to a point. I think the heat pumps are successful, and electrical heat devices, like furnaces and water heater boilers, are successful in those. With Efficiency Vermont, those I think are successful. The ones that I have concern is the transportation of the EVs and the home weatherization program as a whole. If you're doing it from tariff standpoint, as you may know, the president of the United States made sure there were tariffs, so those two might be unavoidable for the cost. But yeah, just to give you a heads up on those two final ones. But I do think the heat pumps, cold climate heat pumps, and the electrical heating systems like water heaters and furnace are successful for the assistance program, federal assistance program. But the other two are not going to be, because they're definitely tariff heavy by the president, So so what I'm seeing from my standpoint, going forward is I'm in the region where Vermont Electrical Co-op controls, like Green Mountain Power. They're both the two main entities of Vermont. They're using AI technology for their grids, which, Outlook not only optimize their grids, but I know it's been very, very successful across, at least for the Vermont Electrical Co-op utilities perspective view. I don't know about Green Mountain Power, but I know both, are doing very, very well across Vermont electricity utility sector. But yeah, just, my thoughts about this, going forward is if we can make the federal assistance program more, be able to utilize that more, except for the ones that like transportation and home health weatherization, in my point of view, those are like I said, very tariff heavy because of the president of the United States. So those may not be able to achieve a greater audience, not unless it's a privileged ones that can do it. But if we're talking as a state as a whole, I do think that what was successful was the cold climate heat pumps and electrical, like, furnaces and water heat boilers, are definitely the ones that are most practical and to the most that we can achieve at this point. But thank you for hearing my comment. I do think AI technology is the future. I know that there's a lot of pros and cons about that across the state of Vermont as a whole. But I do think, getting Vermont ready for the next era of technology might be able to optimize and modernize the efficiency of Vermont utilities moving forward. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for the comments. I would ask, if folks are not speaking, can they please put themselves on mute? There's a little bit of background noise. Thank you. All right. Oops, sorry. Earl Hatley.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Earl Hatley. I'm enrolled citizen of the Abenaki Nation of Missisquoi. I work with 350 Vermont on their Just Transition campaign and ratepayer protection group. As well, I have an organization here, Otoquechee Water Protectors Association, that I founded. And I'm on the steering committee for the Environmental Justice Network in Vermont. And so I want to talk about my situation in that I'm a disabled veteran, 100%. My only source of income is VA and Social Security disability. And I finally was able to find a house here in the Upper Valley that I could afford to buy, but it needs a lot of work. And it's not modern. I need windows, siding, roof, and then upgrade the electric to 200 amps so that I can go total electric. So we're looking at upwards of $50,000 just to get this place modern in that way, and then I'll be able to find out what my utility bill will end up being. And so I've been working for decades on just transition to wind, solar, and battery storage. And it's a long story about that, but here in Vermont, for me, just transition is taking folks in my situation and worse and getting us to the point where we can get off of propane and heating oil and fossil fuels and electrify and modernize our homes. But the incentives are not enough. If I was to take out loans to get this done, then that bill will be on top of the new energy bill that I'd be getting. That's going to be very difficult to do. So I just wanted to pass that on, that a just transition is where we need to be thinking as we bring low income and moderate income folks along in order to put a stop to the greenhouse gas pollution in our atmosphere that's causing climate change. And so this isn't a rich person's game. We all have to be in this, and folks like me and in worse positions need the help. So I wanted to pass that along, and I really appreciate this meeting and you all hosting this and listening to us. Katsibulini.
Thank you very much. Travis Poulin.
Hello, thank you for this opportunity. I'll try to be brief. My fuel and utility coordinator for CVOEO is on this call. She knows how difficult that is for me. The CVOEO is one of 5 community action agencies that provides seasonal fuel and utility assistance. We work closely in cooperation with the state of Vermont to administer the crisis fuel component of the state's seasonal fuel program. We also administer warmth dollars, which are privately donated dollars to support a program that provides supplemental services, supplemental financial assistance, up to $500 total per year maximum per household. I will say simply that we have seen an increasing need over the last few years for metered utility assistance. Warmth, the privately donated funds, are the only funds that are widely available in the month of October before the state's seasonal and crisis fuel season kick in. And then again at the end of the season when those programs end, but the cold weather can sometimes continue to linger. Over the last 3 years, we've served on average around 1,200 unduplicated households in the Champlain Valley each year. The level of need, the level of requests for assistance have grown so much that the Warmth Support Committee, which is made up of the 5 representatives from the 5 community action agencies covering Vermont, have over the last few months been starting to discuss whether or not there is any way we can somehow create a system where we can continue to serve at some level during the summer, because the calls, they simply don't stop when the heating season ends. I deeply appreciate the Public Utility Commission considering how they might address issues to make metered utilities more affordable. It's too simple to say that it's needed, but there it is. The calls that we're getting on a seasonal basis are increasing. This morning, I had a phone call from a woman who had heart surgery. She's been out of work. She let her light bill go by thinking, okay, of all the bills I have to deal with, I'll make sure the rent is paid. I'll make sure there's food on the table. But the light bill I'll catch up on, without realizing that falling behind on her light bill would actually jeopardize her Section 8 status. So she reached out to us this morning to see if there was anything that we could do for assistance. And this is the first day that the fuel and utility team has returned to the office from seasonal layoff. We didn't plan on starting our fuel season until November 3rd. And that's just one example of the level of need that we've been seeing. So I will leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Kimberly Horning-Marcy. I believe you're still on mute. At least I'm not hearing. Yeah, it looks like you're off mute and I can't hear. Is anybody else able to? No. Okay.
No, Ms. Horn-Marcy, you might have to check to see if your microphone is connected, or if the device settings are using the internal microphone in your computer. That's usually the issue if you have no sound.
One other thing to try is to take out, if you had earbuds, it looked like you might have had earbuds in. If you had the earbuds, try disconnecting. Oh, and thank you. Thanks, Jim. Can you put in the chat the phone number for calling in?
Yes, I can. Hold on.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Dumont, a very common sense solution when I'm trying to find all sorts of other ways. While we're still working on this issue, or on this, we'll come back, but is anybody else interested? Yeah, calling in is great. So is anybody else interested in speaking tonight? I want to make sure everyone has an opportunity here. Great. So Ms. Horning-Marcy, we'll get back to you. We're going to jump over a little bit. So, and if you look in the chat function, if you look at the top of the screen where it says chat, if you click that, it'll provide a sidebar that has basically everything people have been writing in. Towards the very end of that is a phone number that Jake Marin inputted.
Jake, perhaps you could also read the phone number, I mean, say the phone number out loud.
Yeah, of course. Yes, it's 1-802, and then 828-7667. And then I believe it'll ask you for a code. And if you need the code, raise a hand and I think she. Would you like me to read the code to you? She's trying to read it off the screen. I wonder if she has audio.
Hello? Hello? Okay.
Great.
So sorry. So I'm Kim Horning-Marcy, and I do thank the PUC for looking into this. and I strongly agree with all the previous testimony. I retired in 2025 from being a United Methodist pastor in Vermont. I've served in a variety of churches. And so my work often put me in contact with our lowest income neighbors. And they were often having extreme difficulty paying their winter electricity bills. The money went for fuel or food or medical or a crisis of a car not working, so they couldn't get to work. So if they were not cut off because it was winter, they ended up carrying mounting debt. I had experience of grandparents with diabetes well into their 70s, scrounging wood along the roads for ancient wood stoves as they raised a grandchild whose parent had died. Often these kids were bright and doing well in school, but few people knew their clothes came completely from thrift stores, and they wore winter coats inside in the winter. Worse, because it was more obvious, sometimes families had no way to shower at the end of the summer because their water system had dried up. So often people were living in extremely rundown 100-year-old homes where you could see the daylight between the boards and there were holes in the roof, or trailers where the heat was hit or miss and pipes would freeze in the winter. I knew of one trailer owner raising 4 grandchildren in a trailer. So this is an example of why we need ratepayer protection for our lowest income residents. They are not lazy. They are running around doing everything they can, but often have jobs that don't cover the full costs of Vermont, or they're too old to have a job. I've watched CVO-EO weatherization transform people's lives, but there's a long wait. So I think we need to join the rest of New England that has ratepayer protection. We are the only state not offering this, and there is significant need. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for sticking with that and being able to provide the comments. Armin Vartanian.
Hi, yeah, Armin. I'm a volunteer in the Windhall Energy Commission, committee, pardon me. And just have a specific suggestion. The Energy Committee is pretty limited in scope because we're a small town. I would like to make a request, which is, how do we get a very specific list of best practices from all the different volunteer efforts on all the different energy commissions or committees, pardon me, that we can actually implement within the scope of work that the Energy Committee does. And I've heard of other energy committees that are effective or not effective, but I don't know where to look to find what they've done. And I'll just relate this to the multiple calls for money on from other comments. There is often money at the local level, including in Windhall, which could flow through to at a local level. So having a specific suggestion on how energy committees can take that local money and funnel it to the people that really need it vis-a-vis energy reduction efforts or cards. I think all of that just documented and sent out regularly to the energy committees for those of us that just are volunteers and don't have the time to look it up ourselves would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. I do want to just note, there is, I forget exactly what VCAN stands for, Vermont Energy Committee Action Network, I believe, which does help support town energy committees. Not trying to offload the work, I'm just noting that there is the resource out there as well for energy committees. So just want to throw that out specifically in response. Ben Gordeski.
Yes. Hi. Thanks for inviting me to allowing me to speak here. Actually, I'm sorry. I'm going to go to another room, take my video off. One thing that I wanted to mention. Well, first of all, I just wanted to again kind of reiterate what other people have said in support of ratepayer protection, because it's just only fair that you know, heat and light, you know, and all the things that we use energy for are basic necessities. And it's just not fair that some people pay much greater percentage of their income for those than others. But I also wanted to mention the role of electrification in rural areas where there is no access to natural gas. Heating with electric, you know, heat pumps saves money. And however, kind of like was said earlier, the problem is that if you don't have much money, you don't have the money to change your infrastructure. If you have a gas boiler, even if it's old and inefficient, then, you know, a propane boiler rather, then to convert to a heat pump requires an initial investment. So that's part of what's necessary is somehow helping people finance and or giving some kind of incentives or rebates for people to make that transition so that they can save money by not, you know, by not using propane or heating oil and using electricity instead. So anyway, thank you. Appreciate the time.
Great. Thank you very much. My apologies in advance. You have Gannett. Sorry, if you're speaking, we can't hear you. Yeah. If you're not, yeah, if you're not able to change the microphone settings, it's possible maybe you could also try, there's a call-in number in the chat.
Did that work?
Yes, that works. Great.
Not a lot of luck with Teams, unfortunately.
Sorry
Let me
about that.
turn off
to be some feedback.
So there were a few things I wanted to bring up. First, you mentioned access, and I've been on the energy committee in our small town for about 8 years, and we've done a whole bunch of different projects here in Huntington in terms of electrification, and have had a fair amount of difficulty with outreach in our tiny town of about 2,000 folks. And one of the big issues that we found is that, especially for older folks, outreach from a trusted individual that's not looking to in any way profit from what I would call sort of audit light of the households in order to help prioritize those things that would be energy saving and help with the light bill are pretty huge. So anything that can be done to help support outreach to folks in the energy burden community would be super helpful. I know that CVOEO has got a lot of great documentation, and connecting that documentation to folks that can use the services would be something I think that needs to be more aggressively pursued, especially since I think there's a huge disconnect between people understanding kind of the income eligibility limits and their own incomes and what might count. So I think especially for the senior citizens or folks on fixed incomes, making that point to increase their level of engagement would be a super thing to try. But I think that there needs to be some kind of a trusted source of information to help overcome some of the pride-related issues that are I think, detrimental factors to getting some folks engaged in programs that are available. So that's one piece. Another piece is portable solar. I think that's something that should be made easily accessible to anybody that wants to do it without having to go through the rigmarole of putting together all of the necessary paperwork and representation for a certificate of public good and working with the PUC, which can take months and be quite expensive for something that could help to offset people's electrical bills year-round. And I know there's been a lot of discussion here about heating, but as some of you have probably noticed, we're somewhat inverted now, and cooling is a huge issue. And we are fortunate in our small town to have 3 buildings that can act as cooling centers. It would be great if people who are tinkerers or so inclined could produce their own bit of electricity to be able to keep their AC units working. The other thing that's somewhat related to that is upgrading existing renewable energy installations is pretty burdensome on folks that are going through that process. And I've been through that process myself, updating from a like a 7 kilowatt system to a 15 kilowatt system, took months and months and thousands of dollars on paperwork, essentially to get that system upgraded to support the electrification of our farmstead. And I think that's something that should be a lot less time consuming and a lot less complicated than it is today. Thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you very much. Just going to note very quickly that Senator Ann Watson from Washington County looks like she's putting forward a bill to exempt portable solar from PUC 248 process, just in response to one of your comments there. So, want to let you know that was happening. Let's see, Debbie New.
Hello, thank you. I just want to make sure you can hear me because other people have
Yes.
had trouble with that. Okay, great. So my name is Debbie New and I live in South Burlington. My parents moved to Vermont in 1968. They're both public health doctors and they both worked very hard to bring equity and opportunity to Vermonters who didn't have it, both in terms of literacy and health, medical care, but also all sorts of different kinds of equity. So what I want to emphasize that comes from a very personal place for me, from my family history in Vermont, is the need for a statewide program. And I don't know if that's really been emphasized enough on this call, that GMP and BED both have programs. I think it's important to look at those programs and see how they could work better, because there are statistics, there's been data shared with you in terms of in certain filings people have made about how those programs are not serving Vermonters in the way that we would hope that they could. But I also want to note that we're such a small state. There are people who are GMP customers who are living next to people who aren't. So GMP customers have an opportunity to participate in that program. Well, there are people who live nearby who cannot have the same opportunity to manage their energy bills. Vermont also is behind, as Kim Horning-Marcy has mentioned, of all the other New England states. I think it's really important to take a good hard look at that and ask why and what can we do about it. Other states have been successful in having statewide electric ratepayer programs, and I would hope that we can do that as well. There are many ways to accomplish that, and there are people on this call who have studied that and consulted the National Consumer Law Center. So we have some expertise here, people wanting to help to make this happen. And it really seems to matter that we figure out a way to bring electric ratepayer protection to everyone in the state of Vermont through a statewide program. And I really hope that there'll be time to look into that and address that. Thank you very much.
You. Just want to give a minute to see there's nobody else who's raised a hand. Again, the raising the hand function, if you look at the top of the screen, from left to right, it says chat, people, and raise. If you click on the raise. Great. Jim Dumont.
Sure. I didn't want to take up time that other people might need because, as you know, I've submitted written comments. I think maybe I should summarize some of the comments for those who haven't read the record. I'm going to start with the memorandum that Mr. Richard Boots of Interfaith Light and Power provided to me. Interfaith Light and Power is a group of folks that churches that address this issue, and this is a memo written to address a family's need for help to avoid disconnection. And it's dated August 30, 2025. Grant request, $361.96 to $497.51 to assist with utility payments for X's family. X is a single parent in her mid-30s living in Burlington's New North End. Her family includes her 17-year-old son, 9-year-old son, and 6-year-old daughter. X lives at blank, a complex with government-funded project-based housing subsidies. Her budget includes modest rent due to the housing subsidy, food, gas, electricity, water, phone, internet, a $300 car payment, car insurance, fuel for the car, and household necessities. X works 15 hours a week as a personal care aide to disabled adults, young adults, and youth. X is assigned clients through a care service. One of her clients is her younger brother who has severe autism, a seizure disorder, and mobility limitations. Caring for him carries additional challenges of relating to her parents about his care and safety. X would work more hours a week if she could. Her time is often focused on her 9-year-old son who has several challenging health concerns. He is currently in a diagnostic process, monitoring and being treated both in Burlington and at a hospital in Boston for digestive and swallowing issues. ARFID syndrome is the hypothesis, and severe food allergies and esophageal biopsy is scheduled for mid-September in Boston. X came to JUMP, J-U-M-P, this past Thursday, asking for support with her utility bills, gas and electric. JUMP provided a $75 grant on X's Burlington electric bill. The remaining outstanding balance on X's Burlington electric bill is $197.51. The outstanding balance on X's Vermont gas bill is $300. The grant request, $497.51 full grant or $361.96 prevent shutoff amount. The full grant will give X a real opportunity as it will zero out both utility balances and give her the opportunity to establish year-round budget plans for her gas and utility bills. This could help prevent her from getting behind in the future. Clearly, this grant will also reduce financial stress for X and her family. As there are currently shut-off notices on both X's gas and electricity accounts for next week, there is some time pressure for your discernment about this grant. The amount needed to stop both shut-off notices is $100 BED and $261.96 Vermont gas. If you have the ability to assist X's family with a full grant for $97.51 or the lesser shutoff prevention amount, if that is what is best from your point of view, please let me know and we will follow up with payment arrangements on Tuesday, ideally. As I noted in my cover letter and in the letter I submitted, the memo I submitted on August 28th, every year in Vermont, about 10,000 households go through this. And about over 50,000 households receive notices that they're going to lose their electricity. It's a really urgent problem, and I hope the commission will step up to the plate and ask the legislature to give the commission clear authority to address it. Thank you.
Thank you. Dwight Kelly.
Hi there. Appreciate the opportunity to speak. A couple of things I wanted to highlight, some of which have been touched on before, but the question of access, I think the current program is fractured and requires knowledge of different programs run by the different utilities. I'm a social worker, so I'm often in the position of assisting individuals navigating that system who may be eligible. And a lot of time goes into that kind of casework. A streamlined state level program would be helpful to clinicians doing that type of work, and frankly would free up more time to allow for other forms of assistance, whether that's mental health treatment, etc., to take place. Another thing that I'll note is that electricity is often not covered on rent. Sometimes heat is included, but electricity is typically not, and that goes for the housing subsidy programs as well. So electricity carries a disproportionate burden for folks who are part of those programs. And then this question of larger affordability, I think we're seeing a energy transition happening in our region, and as we know, our electricity in Vermont is tied into a regional network, and the utilities operate on a regional basis. And so thinking about increased demands as an energy transition happens from AI and other sources, I think it's really important that Vermont prepare to protect its citizens from rising costs, and of course, the most economically disadvantaged as part of that. And then one final point with the current programs, there are definitely gaps in that. And so I would advocate for a much more progressive approach that, again, is easily accessible. And I guess finally, definitely want to put my support behind the idea of doing everything that we can to support a just transition that addresses the climate crisis, in addition to what I've said. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Just going to give a minute, see if anybody else is interested in providing any comments. Again, this is not the only opportunity. In the chat, it is regular mail, email, all sorts of things. Mr. Berdesky. So, Mr. Grodesky, we can't actually hear anything. I'm not sure if you're. Okay.
Okay,
Got it.
can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, anyway, thank you for letting me speak again. And I just wanted to say one thing that I forgot to say the first time, and that is that it's important that programs that help people in need do not have cliffs, but ramp. And then it's also important, I think, that this program ramps down to help people who are maybe as income as low as maybe 60th percentile, similar to what Dr. Dinas or the Medicaid for Children does in Vermont. And so that there's not just a cliff, which makes it challenging to want to get ahead when you're faced with getting ahead a little bit will set you back a lot. So I just wanted to make sure that any program is designed well. And also the usefulness of the program going beyond just median income is that it includes a majority of the population, and that kind of helps it get momentum and not start and then stop. Thank you.
Thank you. Matthew LaFleur again.
Thank you, and thank you for, taking to add on, it's just, what I see with the Vermont Climate Council. It's like 80 to 70% are most of Vermont residents live in that poverty level, federal guidance poverty level too as well, not just poverty level at the state, but poverty level as on the federal side too as well. Yes, I do agree with most, members here. Most people talk about, the accessibility, accommodation, the affordability, but also one thing that Vermont lacks behind, like other New England states, but actually other New England states actually upgrade their infrastructure with new technologies. We got, like I said, AI technology is what Vermont Electrical Co-op is using to modernize their electrical grid, actually, and they're in partnership with Green Mountain Power to make that, not widely available, but making sure that it does become widely available. It's like, it helps, residents, it helps modernize the electrical grid. So residents, low income families, you name it, to be able to save more, money, for other utilities. Like I said, I agree with most, on this call here about, the heating and the transportation. It's just, it's expensive here in Vermont. It's like our medical insurance and our medical premiums. We got to find ways to get ourselves, innovation ways to get ourselves, out of this, um, um, tradition of, let's just kick the can down the road, because this now affects myself as a resident in Grand Isle County, which is rural, which most of the state of Vermont is. It affects us negatively, and we would like to have more stakeholder and partnership, or have more comments to give, in the coming future of how can we innovate our way out of this. Vermont has the technology and mindset, think tank to do it. It just, how can we come together? The other question is, how can we come together to, innovate, our way out of some of these, situations we're in. But that's basically what I see. I see innovation, new technologies, AI integration, on the near future for Vermont. It's just, like the rest of the state, we should be up with the rest of the New England state with infrastructure, just to keep not just competitive, but also making sure that we're serving Vermont residents the best we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Just want to do one more call. Rebecca Dalgin.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Hi, my name is Rebecca Dalgan. I am the co-director at 350 Vermont. And I just wanted to add to the conversation. Commissioners, really appreciate you opening up the session. I know you have an awful lot on your plates, and you responding to requests to hear from more folks about this issue. And I just want to name that there are many, many folks who aren't here tonight who I think would have stories to share with you. And so I just want to bring that to awareness, that it can be intimidating for people to come to a meeting like this or submit comments through a governmental or bureaucratic process. And so just wanted to bring that to light, that there are many voices who probably have many stories to tell that aren't here. And much appreciation for all your work.
Thank you. All right. Let's come do one more long pause. And I do want to thank everyone for showing up tonight. This last speaker noted this is coming out at 7 o'clock to participate in a bureaucratic exercise. To talk to government officials is not always people's priority, and so I appreciate when folks make the time. So thank you very much. I again invite comments. I know a lot of folks, I personally don't like speaking, public speaking, and so encourage folks. There's all sorts of different ways. It's in the chat to provide that. And Jake, can you look like you want to make a plug as well?
Yes, I just included in the chat a link to our survey. So for folks who maybe feel like they have more to add or didn't feel comfortable participating today by speaking, we do have this survey online where you can answer some questions about energy burden and also share any additional thoughts you have.
Great. Thanks, Jake. Good idea. All right. So just want to say thanks again, everyone. Appreciate it, and have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
airports in Las Vegas, Charlotte, Phoenix, and Seattle are among those making the same decision. Some authorities argue the partisan message in the DHS video may violate the 1939 Hatch Act, which restricts certain political activities by federal employees. The government shutdown has left Transportation Security Administration employees and air traffic controllers working without pay, adding to mounting disruptions. For NPR News, I'm Beto in Atlanta.
Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell says that a sharp slowdown in hiring poses a growing risk to the U.S. economy. The comment suggests that the Fed will likely cut its key interest rate twice more this year. This is NPR News. President Trump is threatening to withdraw assistance from Argentina if voters there don't align with his interests in upcoming elections. Argentine President Javier Milei faces midterm elections later this month. He visited the White House today. The U.S. recently provided $20 billion in aid to Argentina's struggling economy. President Volodymyr Zelensky in Ukraine says Russian airstrikes hit a hospital in Ukraine's second largest city, Kharkiv, wounding 7 and forcing evacuation. Zelensky is set to meet with President Trump in Washington on Friday to seek more military support, including air defense. Trump has warned Moscow that it may send long-range Tomahawk cruise missiles for use on Ukraine. The sales numbers for Taylor Swift's The Life of a Showgirl are in, and the album is a record-breaking success. NPR's Hazel Sills report.
This week, Taylor Swift's The Life of a Showgirl reaches #1 on the Billboard Albums chart, and all of its songs topped the Billboard Hot 100, including The Fate of Ophelia at #1. Her 15th #1 album on the chart, which means she's now had more #1 albums than Jay-Z and Drake, whom she was previously tied with. She's also now the musical act who has the second most #1 albums in the history of the Billboard chart, behind the Beatles.
Rachel, in custody. Before we get to the day show, here's an update from the Middle East. On Monday, after Hamas returned 20 living hostages from Gaza, Israel began
Waving, shouting, dancing. I danced and I sang a song.
What did you sing, Mustafa?
Freedom is that. Freedom is that. Long when you had a job. Long when you had a job. After 2 years of devastation, destruction, and scaring, I stand to my friends. We want peace to the end.
You said that the war has come to an end, Mustafa, but there are so many details to be worked out yet. So I'm just wondering how confident and optimistic you feel about that.
That's okay, because the American president,